3000.
What is doing? I hate doing it, but I'd like everyone to like, subscribe, share the content. Sharing is really important. If you like the content that I'm bringing you with the 3000 podcast, you want to help us grow, make sure you do all that stuff. Follow us on Instagram, like, subscribe, share, do all that good shit. Now to the episode.
1000.
What is doing? My name's Maloney. This is the 3000 podcast. I'm joined today by early bird MC all the way from WA, man.
That's it. I love a good adventure.
You definitely do.
Yep.
When you filled out that application form and you're like, dude, I'm in WA. I'm like, have you got any reason to be in Melbourne? You're like, no, I'll just come to do it. And I was like, that's commitment.
Yeah. It's a good excuse to go on a holiday, basically.
Indeed it is, man.
Yeah.
So you flew out of WA yesterday and you're here today.
That's right.
Travelling
Flew
around
in,
a bit.
Picked up a wicked camper van last night. That was tragic. I can't believe how garbage this van is that they gave me. I'm sorry. I'm not pulling any punches. It was so shit.
But it works.
It's going, just.
Okay.
Yep.
So you don't endorse the Wicked Camp?
No, not at the moment. They're in the bad books. But it was nice. Went for a little mission, camped by the ocean last night, had a cold dip this morning.
Yeah.
Did my thing. Yeah, feeling fresh. Feeling
Nice
good.
one, man.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, awesome. All right,
Yeah.
well, let's talk about your story. Obviously, you are an MC.
Mm-hmm.
You're from WA, but tell us how you got involved in this hip-hop stuff and what sort of brought you to sort of where you are at the moment, man.
Okay, so how I got into hip hop, it's funny because, I grew up in country New South Wales, in Tamworth of all places. So that's like
Very musical.
country music,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it was actually Limp Bizkit that got me into rap music and Fred Durst.
Yeah, I love that shit, though.
Yeah, so it was listening to Fred Durst was the first rapper that got me into hip hop. And then basically I was addicted since then. Since a young boy, I would be up at like 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning watching Rage.
Mm-hmm.
The Rage Countdown, Top 100 Countdown, that raised me basically.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So that are you talking about like End Together Now with Method Man? That track was like sort of the one that kind
Yep,
of... Yeah.
yep. He did Rolling as well, I think was another one. Check my dangerous slang, detrosis. When I let these nuts hang, focus, Wu-Tang. Yeah. He did that with Redman, did that Rolling remix. That was pretty dope. But yeah, then there was Rage was a huge influence for me. And then, Eminem obviously came on the scene. I started listening to Eminem and Cypress Hill when I was way too young. Mm-hmm. Way too young.
So
I was
how old are you?
I'm 36 now.
Okay.
And my cousin gave me a Cypress Hill album, Cypress Hill 4, when I was 11 years old.
Uh-huh.
And that was when I moved from my mum's house to my dad's house. My cousin drove me and he played me the Cypress Hill album. And then I was really hooked on hip hop after that.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, there was the wrong, those influences were too much for my young mind. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so I was started to become indoctrinated by rap music. And then you got Cypress Hill, and then Eminem, Marshall Mathers LP, which is the only Eminem album in my opinion. For me, there's the best album.
The Slim Shady LP is pretty good.
Yeah, well, yeah. The Slim Shady LP, that has... that's the one that's got Guilty Conscience on it, right?
Yeah.
And the Marshall Mathers LP had the real Slim Shady.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Epic. Both epic albums.
Yeah.
So the Marshall Mathers LP really had a huge influence on my life in lots of different ways. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the connotations and the context of what Eminem raps about is, profound in a lot of ways. But then, so I was 10 years old, spitting freestyles. And then, I... had a lot of personal stuff going on when I was growing up. So writing poetry and writing lyrics was one of the main ways that I had a platform for my voice to be heard and express what I was going through and write it down. And I didn't care if it was shit or not. I just needed to write these bars. So I've been writing bars since I was 10 years old. And then when I was 17, I started rapping in front of my friends. 18, 19, started spitting freestyles. And then I stopped. It's funny, when I was smoking ganja and listening to rap music as a young teenager, that was a vibe. And then, the substances changed. Mm-hmm. I started using Bickies and this and that. And I stopped listening to rap music and just started listening to techno, house music. From the age of 18, when Bickies came on the scene, until I was 25, all I listened to was Ministry of Sound. Mm-hmm. It was house music. And then, but rap is still part of who I am, and it came back around 23, 24, 25. When I moved to Perth, I met a couple of DJs and said that I could MC.
What made you move to Perth?
So I was 19 when I moved to Perth, and it was basically just work.
Uh-huh.
Just following the work over there. I was pouring concrete, doing form work from a very young age. So when I finished a job out at Bathurst, I was working with a couple of guys who were going to Perth. They said there was work over there. So I packed me and the missus up. I was 19, she was 18. And we moved to Perth in, 09.
Right.
Yep.
And that was a mining boom sort of then as well, though. There was a lot going on in WA.
Yeah, there was a lot going on. And I was working just in the city. Just pouring concrete, being reckless, drinking, partying, doing all kinds of loose things. But the hip hop didn't come in until a bit later.
Because at that point in time, there's a lot of money over in WA. There's a lot of dudes going fly in, fly out and that sort of thing. And from what I can understand, when they get to Perth, they like to party and that sort of thing happens a lot.
Yep.
Because they've got the disposable income.
Yep.
And they know they're going back to the mines where it's fucking boring.
Yeah. There was a big scene. I wasn't in the FIFO scene, FIFO scene. I was just in the day-to-day scene, like working in town 5 days a week, and we loved to party. Like we would party on a Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night. Wednesday nights were a big one, and we'd be out all night and then
Where do you
come
go,
into
like
work.
Northbridge or something?
Yeah, so there was like the Aberdeen Hotel, the Leaderville Hotel in Northbridge and Leaderville. They were the two main ones that we used to go and have a blast on a midweek bender. But I don't know how we did it. I honestly don't know how we did it. That was so reckless, man. I don't know how we survived it.
Yeah. When you're young, you've got different stamina with that sort of stuff. You can get up and go to work and
Yep. So yeah, then I started working up north in 2010 and, slowly started creeping back into music. But yeah, it was when I was on Barrow Island and I met some DJs and I said that I could MC, but I'd never MC'd before. I was just talking it up. And they go, "Oh, cool, you're an MC. Sweet. We need an MC for this gig."
Right.
And then after
But you've been writing a lot of bars.
Well, no, this is after my big break.
Right.
So this is when I come back. I just started thinking about, getting back into rhyming again. And I met these DJs and said I could MC, but I'd never done it. And then they said, "Okay, we've got a gig, come and MC." And then all of a sudden I was like, shit, I need to actually now I need to write bars. Now I need to practice rapping. And that's when the journey I'm on now started. It was in around 2015.
Right.
2014, 2015.
So it's been 10 years.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And so is that where the early bird moniker came from or?
Yeah. So I was just reflecting on, when I was deciding to become a rapper, because it was also a lot about limiting beliefs. I always loved rap and I loved making rap music, but I never in my heart believed that I could be a rapper. It wasn't something for me. But then that all changed in 2015. I was like, no, I'm going to be a rapper. And I changed the belief in my mind. Like now I'm going to start working on my music as if I am a rapper. And I'm going to put this out to the world. I'm going to become an artist. This is my passion. This is what I'm going to do now. I changed the whole mindset around it.
Okay. Are drugs or substances still involved at this stage?
Yeah, big time.
Right, okay.
Big time,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, a big party animal. I love all kinds of, self-exploration, mind expansion, journeying on the internal realms with all kinds of capacities. And, I've been a heavy weed smoker for all of my life. But a lot of that's parked now, which we'll get to, I guess, later in the conversation. But at that point, I was still exploring everything very, very intensely, including rap music. So then I came up with Early Bird. I was just reflecting on, what do I want my rap name to be? And I have this way that I create is I just visualize a concept and maybe how many syllables, shapes, and what shapes are the words and, how do I want it to feel?
So it's visual for you as much as musical.
Yeah, so it's like a sense. It's a felt sense, but it's almost it's shapes and it is visual, yeah. But it's not like images. It's more of a feeling. Like I can feel what I'm trying to express,
Okay.
and then I process and I channel into words. So yeah, that's
Okay.
how I came up with Early Bird,
Okay.
MC. Yeah.
And you were at that stage still dabbling, so you were sometimes up early, and sometimes you probably weren't going to bed, and you were.
Yeah.
I don't know, like yeah.
That's right. But I was always, really focused on self-development.
Okay.
I always wanted to be like the best version of myself. I always wanted to know what's the meaning of life. I always wanted to know, like, how can I just extract the most from life? How can I be the most successful person possible?
Did you grow? Was that it? Sorry, but was that an influence from your parents, or was that something you discovered yourself as an adult?
So it was like the opposite, because my parents, in a sense, were I framed them as everything I don't want to be when I grow up.
Fair enough. Yep.
So I was so passionate about changing my life so I didn't end up in the situation that I was raised in. That was the catalyst for me on my self-development journey.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that a contradiction with using the substances though? Because are you being the best, or you always saw it as just an exploration thing?
No, I was definitely completely unconscious, addicted, and coping with substances, as well as driven to learning about myself and exploring about myself. But there was many layers for me to work through before I got to the place where I realized who I am without the substances. Yeah.
Which it seems like you got there in the end, but a lot of people, I guess, to make them cope with trauma, that they might have experienced early, we fall into substance use and that sort of thing.
Yep. That's right. And I'm a bit of an extreme person. Like, I love extreme sports. I love going really fast and going really hard at things. So when it came to, using substances and plant medicine, like later when I got into ceremonial, medicinal uses of these kinds of technologies, I would always go really hard. You know what I mean? Like
all or nothing.
Lots of acid, lots of DMT, lots of Molly, lots of ganja. I really wanted to see what the extreme ends of the spectrum is all about.
Yeah.
So in the earlier years, it was like I didn't realize that I was actually running from myself. And then as I evolved on my self-development journey, I started using the medicine to actually go towards myself, to actually learn how to go closer towards myself.
Right.
Because that's the way you look at using substances. It's like anything in life, really. Am I using this to go towards myself or away from myself?
Yep.
Yeah. So it could be anything.
Is it a Band-Aid, or is it helping me grow as a person?
Yeah.
Well, it's a mature way to look at it, but I guess it's something that you need to learn yourself. Like, trying to explain that to someone who isn't ready for that yet in their life, they're not going to get it, are they?
Yeah, you can't really, expect someone to, do the work on themselves if they're not fully, invested or committed in that process. They might be curious, like I was, and really, think that I'm passionate about doing self-development and internal healing, but there's really lots of limitations involved with that it takes immense amount of presence to process on that journey. Yeah.
So then you started to go on that journey personally. Were you reading books? Was there people you were looking at online? What was your motivation? Did you have a guru that was helping you? Like, how did you do it?
Ooh, okay. So that unlocks a really big story because I started reading books. The first book I ever read was the first book I ever read, because I was like, I hated people trying to tell me what to do, was Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Yep. I've been given that book before.
Yeah?
And I started reading it when I was a kid, but I never finished it.
Yep. It's an interesting book. It has some valuable takeaways from it, about assets and liabilities. And, Robert's got an interesting take on this and that. But the next teacher that I looked up to was Joe Dispenza. Dr. Joe Dispenza, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, and his meditations was very, very impactful on my life. It still is to this day.
Right.
And then, I found a guru, right? And, anyone we need to be really, really conscious about this, because this is an important part of my journey as well. Because so this is like, fast forward from, completely unconscious, reckless drug taking, habitual toxic patterns to, healing, and then ayahuasca, plant medicine, fasting, cutting back, abstaining from ganja, dieting, being vegan, vegetarians, ice baths, breath work, all that kind of stuff, integrating to my life to kind of like shed away a lot of the layers of attachment and distortion, and really connecting with the present moment and healing and doing some really positive work. And then I met a spiritual teacher, right? And the thing about this was that, I'm an empathic person. I'm extremely empathic. And, this teacher wasn't everything that he portrayed himself to be.
Right.
And it actually ended up dishing me up probably the most critical and painful lessons in my life. Like, that was the hardest, most ultimate rock bottom I hit, was roughly 3 years after I started working with this guy who I looked up to as my guru.
How did you find this person?
So I was working with him. He was a scaffolder, right? And he was very spiritual, like so was I. We connected on Buddhism and meditation, and we talked about all kinds of spiritual philosophies and entrepreneurship and making money and all this kinds of stuff. And, we were kind of outcasts. So we connected really well. And we stayed friends for a few years. And I looked up to him because he had like a photographic memory, and he read all these books, the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavad Gita, knew all these Hindu philosophies, and would just like rattle off spiritual teachings to me. And I looked up to him,
You felt that he was a bit further on his journey than you were, so you sort of looked up to him.
I looked up to him as a guru, right? I was like a student.
To the scaffolder.
Yeah. But he was actually, it turned out that he was like a complete narcissist, like a psychopathic narcissist. And, we went on a journey together, and he basically like groomed me, indoctrinated me into, like this belief system about spirituality, and then, proceeded to like disconnect me from my family, my purpose, my music, my money.
Just to serve him?
So it started off being like, he would take me to the temple, like a Buddhist temple in Perth, the Buddhist Society of Western Australia. And, we would talk about philosophy and spirituality. And I was very, very interested in that stuff. But at the same time, we would talk about business. So he had a business idea, and I was an entrepreneur, and he was trying to get me to invest in this business. After about 3 years of knowing this guy, and he would be there when I was like, feeling down, and have, like some insights for me, or he would call me out of the blue right before something happened. There was all these synchronicities over many years. So it made me believe that there was something, divine about knowing this guy. And then, like the idea of business came into it, and he's like, invest in my business. I've got this business idea. I was like, no. And 12 months, it was like a year or so went past, and he was still doing this business, and he was trying to get me to invest in it. Anyway, it was a part of my journey that, I ended up investing in this guy's business. And then, he turned on me, basically. Long story short, he ended up turning on me, becoming extremely violent and aggressive. And by this time, I'd already invested all of my money into him and this business. And I'd completely lost myself in him and this journey. And he'd hijacked my being through all of this by bastardizing spirituality, basically. So he was a narcissist and I was an empath, and we're perfect for him
to exploit you,
for acting out each other's trauma. Mm-hmm. And I was unaware of what was happening at the time.
Did anyone try and say there's red flags here and help you? Any of your other friends, or you were just so caught up?
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Hindsight.
My parents, my ex-girlfriend broke up with me. There was red flags all over the place.
But you were so
hyper-focused,
you could.
It was completely toxic AF. The whole situation was cooked. And yeah, it ended up being extremely traumatic. And, you know, I lost all my money. I ended up selling all my things. You know, I disconnected from my music. And then, you know, I was going to kill myself. I was like, I'm done. This guy was like an evil, psychopathic, you know, narcissist who drove me to the point of killing myself. And I'm pretty sure that was his mission. He wanted me to like kill myself. It's just pure evil. And then, you know...
Did you confront him at all? And sort of when it came to a head, did you say, hey, I'm done. Like I've the glasses, the charade's over. The glasses are off. I know who your real motivation.
Yeah. So a couple of times I confronted him, and with narcissists, like the more you withdraw, the more aggressive they become.
Right.
When they start to, you know, like, you know, ramp up the game. And it wasn't until right at the end, like I'd lost everything, before it clicked that it was all a scam and it wasn't real, and I was just like playing some dumb game.
Did he lose everything as well, or he just figured out a way to extract your...
I have no idea.
Right.
I have no freaking idea. All the only thing I could do to protect myself was cut off everything, cut every tie I had to do with him, and move on with my life. So yeah, it was on the day, there was the day in particular where I was like ready to take my life. I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like I've lost everything. I'm done. I was selling my shit. I ended up homeless. Had to move out of my house because I couldn't pay the mortgage. Had to get it rented out. I was living on a boat. And then, you know, like on the day I was going to kill myself, I said there was an ayahuasca ceremony happening. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to end it today, I might as well go to this ceremony. One of my brothers was facilitating. And then I went there. And then I started telling people my story. I was like, this is what's happened. I've been on this spiritual journey. And I was showing them the messages and telling them the story. And they were like, oh, no. They were like, no, Slade, that's wrong. Like that's not true. And that's the moment that the penny dropped, when I realized that it was all fake. It was all lies. I was getting none of my money back. And that I just wasted like 2 years of my life pursuing this fantasy. That it was just complete ridiculousness. And then, yeah, that was my ultimate rock bottom.
Right.
And I've basically been rebuilding myself since then.
And how long ago was that?
That was 2020.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's been 5 years.
Yeah.
So you were on your musical sort of journey that time, but then you just had to start everything fresh.
Correct. Yeah. So I'd had my last album, Ultra Truism. I'd produced it, had the music video, everything, and I was doing the whole campaign. I'd studied marketing, had everything set up, ready to launch. And then I went into this journey with this psychopath, and completely dropped the music. Had to change my whole life. I ended up, you know, like becoming completely deluded, lost, and confused about my whole life, and dropped the music. And then so then I just I dropped Ultra Truism. I dropped the music video. Didn't really have any energy behind it, and then so then after that whole journey with my guru, my spiritual guru, who turned out to be an evil, manipulative psychopath, that's when that was my hero's journey. That was my dark night of the soul. That was when I learned what human beings are capable of. I learned what I'm capable of. And I learned about who I am as a man. I learned how to, you know, relate with the world in a different way. And I'll never look at the world the same again after that experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even though it was a horrible experience, it still has shaped who you are now and has made you a better person from enduring that experience?
1,000,000%.
Okay.
Like it was horrible, but I'm so grateful for that experience because, you know, I lost 100 grand, but, you know, people spend that on a college education. And the way I look at it now is that was my education. I spent that on my tuition.
You did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing, I think, when people get really down to the point of suicidal when it comes to money, I get it. I totally understand it. But you can always make more money, and it's never like, do you know what I mean? When people lose money and they let that defeat their mindset, it's just money, you know?
Yeah.
You can always make another 100 grand. It's not worth ruining your life over.
That's right. And I think a big takeaway from that situation is about failure, because you know, it was a pretty big failure. Like I failed hard, and I've continued to fail like time and time again. But building a new relationship with failure so that it's valuable, because we get so much value from failure. We have to fail like again and again and again and again and again before we get to the result that we want. You know, so losing money, you know, losing businesses, losing relationships, whatever it is, it's every failure leads to the next success.
For sure.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan said you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, so then on your journey, you've lost everything. You've hit what you said, rock bottom. And then you went to the ayahuasca ceremony, which you took part in.
Yeah, which basically the medicine did nothing for me.
Right.
I just had to sit there and face the reality that I'd just lost everything and that now I'm going to have to start again.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's when I was 30. I was 30 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a bookmark in your life anyway, with a you know, milestone birthday. You've been through that. Your 20s are over. You're like, okay, I've got to rebuild. So what's the next step you take in a positive manner?
So basically, I went in pure my nature. I just went fully hardcore into self-development again. I stopped doing ganja, stopped drinking, went vegan, just hardcore breath work, ice baths, meditations, everything all at once, just to try and cope with what I was going through. And
is that the healthiest way to do it in hindsight, do you think?
No, it wasn't, because I wasn't sleeping. I was meditating. I was doing breath work and meditating more than I was sleeping. But it was that traumatic. I didn't know how to process it then. And what's really profound is how the universe hooked me up, because it was at that point when I was ultimate low, my ultimate low, that I went to visit a friend and we were going to do some breath work. I went to his house, and there was a few brothers living in this house, and they were all conscious, fit, healthy brothers doing men's work on their self-development journeys. And I came there in tatters, in absolute tatters. And they were like, I'm homeless. I'm living at my mom's. This is all shit. They're like, bro, we have a bedroom here. Why don't you come and live with us? And I straight away said yes. And what was funny is, because everyone in this house, there was me and 3 other men, we all had hit rock bottom at the same time and ended up in that house at the same time. We all went through a traumatic breakup. We lost a business. We had some kind of life shit that happened, and we all ended up in this one house at the same time in 2020.
Okay.
And the universe just goes, here, boys, now you have brotherhood. And it was insane. That was the ultimate level up for me, to go from being crushed, my ultimate destruction, to now having this opportunity to learn so much about myself with men that I look up to, that I respect, that I aspire to, that I was really, really grateful to be around. And we formally named it the Cockpit.
Great name.
Yeah.
So who out of this group of guys did you know previously? All of them?
No, it was funny. The guy that I knew, who I'd met at Blazing Swan, his name was Joel, ended up being the guy that got kicked out of the house.
Okay.
So the guy that I knew got kicked out, and I ended up staying on with the rest of the brothers.
So he got kicked out for just not really getting the cockpit mentality.
Yeah, he went on his own journey, bro.
Okay.
He went on his own journey. He ended up becoming very, very infatuated with a God complex, basically.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it was very interesting. And this is the beautiful thing about brotherhood, is because we all had the opportunity to really see each other and, share, where we think we're out of alignment. And then, how we work by, reinforcement, really direct truth, you know what I mean? And how that's their relationship to the masculine. Mm-hmm. And, some men can handle that, some men can't handle that. They take that, they can take it on board and grow from it, or they get defensive and they'll just shut it down.
Okay.
So, yeah, we had an opportunity to, step in and express, what we were seeing from our perspective, and it wasn't received. And then we chose to just align our energies in a different direction.
So everyone there in that house had the same mentality. We've all sort of hit rock bottom, so we can help each other and pull ourselves out of the shit together.
Yep. And I think in some some aspects they were more advanced than me because they'd already been doing business. They were on their fitness journey. They had already been studying, you know, like diet and they had their own communities. So I kind of I feel like I got the most value out of it.
Yeah.
Because I plugged into their energies, and then we all came together, and we ended up, you know, we all started businesses, we all started movements. I started rap school, and I did a Blazing Swan theme camp called Heartquake. I called all that in together. I was doing events, and yeah, really just reinvigorated who I was and helped me reconnect with my identity that I lost through that process of you know, selling myself out to a fake spirituality.
Yeah. But not to give this guy any props, but a lot of times when people do have issues with substances or whatever, they break you right down so you can build yourself up. He inadvertently broke you right down so you could start fresh.
Yeah.
In a weird way.
Yeah. I think, I really am humbled by that experience, and now I feel like I have the power to discern a lot more about people and where they're coming from, and what they're capable of.
Did it concern you when you got into that thing that it felt a bit cultish, maybe? Because it seems a little bit like that.
Yeah, 100%. He was trying to build a cult.
Uh-huh.
It was 100% cultish. It was very, very toxic. But I didn't have the awareness to like tune into that then. I was hypnotized.
But then you kind of go from one cultish spiritual thing to the house, which then is not cultish because you're all trying to go positive, but it's all sort of it's like one addiction to another kind of, with the health, with going all deep. Did that concern you?
Nah, it didn't really, because I think that, you know, what I'd learned about my journey with old mate, the spiritual guy, had affirmed the fact that my salvation is not outside of me. Yeah, no one outside of me can bring me to the place where I feel whole and complete. So I feel like I took that into the house. So I didn't look at the brothers as they were going to save me. I couldn't look at anyone else like they were going to save me anymore.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
But it was just a good, positive environment to be in for you to find yourself again and to build yourself back up.
Yeah, for me to be held, for me to be seen, for me to feel respected, acknowledged, and really honored, man, because those brothers, they saw the value in me, and we would share, you know, what we appreciated about each other. And I felt safe to express how I'd been hurt, and you know, they would listen and share whether it was okay, that's valid, and then be like, or if I'd expressing some hurts, they'd be like, Slade, like, come on, man, that's a bit whack. You know what I mean? Like there's that reflection of what I was processing that I got from those brothers in that house.
When you say brothers, because you still consider them brothers?
Yeah, most of them.
Okay.
Yeah, all two of them.
Okay.
Two of them, yeah.
Some of them have gone on different journeys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And the brothers from that house aren't all connected anymore. I've just chosen to stay in contact with a couple of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
One of them in particular.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then that happens, you focus back on your music. What kind of work are you doing? Because you mentioned that there's an entrepreneurial sort of vibe. I'm guessing you don't want to do concreting forever.
All right. So this leads into COVID.
Uh-huh.
Right.
But in WA, COVID's not a huge thing.
So it was a huge catalyst for me because I'm very rebellious and I don't really agree with a lot of propaganda that they try to infiltrate my psyche with. So when we had lockdowns, all this kind of shit, I was like, fuck this. I was like part of the freedom movement. I was performing my music at the freedom rallies and I was going to work offshore. So I had a job lined up as a scaffolder on oil rigs. And they're like, okay, well, yeah, you can go do this job, but you need to get the jab. So I said no. and I gave up my career in construction, and I wanted to keep doing events and run rap school. So I said, fuck this. I'm going to lease a warehouse. I'm going to go underground, and we're going to keep doing events and have a recording studio. And I ran my 10-week program called Rap School all the way through COVID. That's how I got through COVID, was living in a warehouse with my recording studio. We had a wellness space, live music venue, and I was running Rap School. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that was your positive thing just to keep you moving through that process.
Yeah, so that's when I moved out of the house as well. I moved out of the cockpit when I leased the warehouse with another brother. And then, I went underground through COVID so that we could keep gathering in community and keep making music and keep the community together, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so were you further along on your spiritual journey by that stage? You're getting a bit cold, man.
I am. After I dropped those bars, that was hot.
I'm used to it. So then you go further along on your journey then. Is the brothers, is it an official thing, or you're just all looking out for each other?
What do you mean?
Well, because you say that me and another brother, like, is it an organisation, or you just consider each other brothers?
Yeah, I think that that's a good question. That, I refer to my brothers as the men that, I confined in at that time, because relationships change, brotherhoods change and evolve. And I think that, to call these men my brothers was to be the ones that, I respected, that, I valued their opinion, that I felt they were living at their edge, that they could challenge me and keep up with me. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And that's reciprocated, where they would call you brother as well, and it was,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure whether it was just a turn of phrase that you were using, or it was an actual thing. No, we are part of this brotherhood,
Nah, so there's a few, there's been a few brotherhoods over the time, and they seem to come and go, and they always evolve and morph, and we take bits and pieces from the circles with us. But I don't know, how much do you know about sitting in circle in sacred space?
It's all new to me. Tell me.
Medicine and stuff. Okay, so this is perfect timing on the timeline of this journey as well, because I started working with men's groups, and we would sit in circle. So once a week, we would meet every Sunday morning at 6:30 a.m. In Scarborough. And basically, like, men's groups are so valuable. It's so important, because we don't really talk about like our feelings or vulnerabilities. It's not something that men really do with each other. Mm-hmm. So
it's getting better as a society. We are getting better, but it is still
yeah. And I think that it's also very important, for us to progressively do that. That's very valuable, and to have like a very, intentional space where we go, okay, we're going to go get together and we're going to sit down and we're actually going to focus, and we're going to have an intention, and we're going to have some structure, and we're going to share, and we're going to support each other. And then we're going to do something that challenges us, and we're going to grow together as brothers. That's like the container where you have like some brothers that agree on these parameters, and they agree on the values and accountability. So we would meet on a Sunday morning at like 6:30 a.m. It's cold, it's rainy, like all year round, but that's the point. Like, it's hard. Like, you don't really want to do it, but it's fortifying our masculinity. So then we'd sit in a circle, right? And circles are so sacred, because circles have been around for forever, and what's beautiful about them is everybody's equal. Everybody's facing each other. There's no hierarchy in a circle. Mm-hmm. So you basically hold a circle, you sit in a circle like of a men's group, and then, maybe you have a space holder who goes around and tells everyone, okay, what we're doing here today, we're going to have a sharing circle. We start the circle with introducing yourself, Brother Slade, checking in, maybe share a win, a challenge, and an insight from your week. And when you're finished, you say, aho, which means, like I'm finished, I hear you and I see you, and we all acknowledge that. And then we have an opportunity maybe to ask a couple questions. And then you go, okay, look, but we don't want you to waffle on all day about your problems, okay? We don't want to hear anything that, we can't basically like help you solve.
Okay.
So you got to be concise and to the point, and there's parameters around how you share effectively so that, it's a constructive share. It's not just like sharing for the sake of sharing, which is also valuable, but still that's part of the point. So what I'm getting to is this is how like a men's circle can work under these circumstances. And we would do this every week. We would sit in circle, rain, hail, or shine.
Outside.
And then we'd have a sharing circle. We'd like, and then when you do that, like you're listening to all the stories, and like you can find bits of yourself in all of the men, all of the brothers in the circle.
Or even I'm guessing find a bit that you're like, I've been through that, I can help you there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, then we can offer some value or some support, or we can call each other out. We can be like, maybe you could be showing up better here, or like, I hear you, like we can support you here, like you're seen.
Yep. Is it attached to any larger groups? How do people find out about these things? Or is it attached to any one kind of religion or spirituality? No.
Not really. Not that I know of. I'm pretty sure there's communities. Well, I know that there's some circles in communities. I don't know, like how to find them in specific communities. I was just lucky that the group that I found myself in, the community that I found myself in, was doing this work. So we were all about, self-development, being the best versions of ourselves, and entrepreneurship and men's work. So this is where we found ourselves in these men's groups.
So break down men's work for us. That is sort of like that sort of stuff?
So men's work, I'm not an expert, but I do know a little bit about it. And I've worked with some brothers that are more, experts at this than me. And I'll just speak into my experience. So just a little disclaimer there, not trying to say that I know everything about men's work,
No, but you know more than me because I know nothing.
Yeah. So it's about fortifying masculinity and learning about what our masculinity actually is, building a relationship with healthy masculinity, and feeling safe around other men as well. So it's a lot about, challenging ourselves and learning about what we're capable of, because, we have a very different approach to the world than, masculinity and femininity are very different. We have both. Obviously, men and women have both a masculine side and a feminine side. So I think men's work is about working with other men to help, fortify our masculine side and also connect us with our feminine side. So our masculine side is about resilience and goal-orientated, very logical, very rational, safety and discipline, and all these kinds of, very linear, very logical aspects of our personality. And our feminine side is a lot around communication, emotions, and playfulness, and soft, and our sensitivity. So I think doing men's work is about, building relationships with those parts of ourselves and learning how to express them and lean on them and heal them in ourselves and each other, just around other men. Yeah, and grow to be better men, so we can heal ourselves, so we can provide more safety for our community and our family.
And just positivity, I'm guessing.
Yeah, 100%. And playfulness as well.
Yep.
Because I think it's really important to be ridiculous. And some of the best, men's groups I've been in and the brothers that I have at the moment are just so ridiculously playful. It's hilarious. Yeah.
So there you go. I'm learning a lot here, man. I'm learning a lot. So
Okay, cool.
With those men's groups, and then you're focusing on your music again, doing your 10-week programs and that sort of stuff.
Yep.
Obviously, you're making more music yourself. Are you doing production? Are you just rapping? Are you focusing on different areas of music? Are you just doing hip hop? Where are you at musically at this point?
So right now I'm living in the warehouse and I'm running rap school, which is my 10-week program. And the men's group is helping me develop my program because I don't really have the confidence and the accountability to go through it on my own. So they're really supporting me on that and helping me stay accountable and stay on path and stay focused. When I start to doubt myself and lose focus, they would be like, okay, Slade, come back into alignment. What are you struggling with? Stay focused. You got this. Let's go. And they keep moving. And then I was taking groups of 5 to 10 souls through a 10-week journey of basically learning about the culture of hip hop, starting from the fundamentals of, where the roots of hip hop really came from, acknowledging the founding fathers and mothers of the culture and rap music, and learning about the fundamentals of rhyming and rapping and songwriting, and then going through, week by week on a process of, storytelling, writing lyrics, structures, like rhyme structures, syllables, and then writing bars, freestyling. And then once they learn the fundamentals, going into more advanced techniques and then helping them write full songs. So then by the end of 10 weeks, we would have had 3 to 5 full songs and then have a performance at the end, the graduation show. Mm-hmm. And that was so fulfilling. I really loved doing that. We had a lot of great, outcomes from that. People got a lot of reward and a lot of benefit from doing that program. So I'm looking forward to bringing that back, but that's been parked at the moment. So then I did that with the warehouse. And then after the warehouse, I started a construction company. So I had a scaffolding company that I scaled super aggressively and had a lot of success for a couple of years. But when I was growing my construction company, I never did music. I was slowly writing music. So basically from 2020 or 2019, 2020, when I hit rock bottom with that spiritual guru guy, I started writing lyrics again. And the first song that I wrote after that journey was called Part 1. And that's the first song off my new album From Then Till Now. And then I'd slowly started writing lyrics and I wrote 20 tracks. And then I decided that I was going to start getting all my old verses that I'd written over the whole course of my journey as an artist and start putting them together and just releasing them. So then I was putting all these old verses together. I had all these songs that I'd written after my journey of hitting rock bottom and going through the whole awakening, basically self-development journey of working with men's groups and plant medicine, and then kept writing lyrics. And then I wrote these 20 tracks, released a couple of singles, and then eventually just put these 10 tracks together and only released them very recently on this album called From Then Till Now. Mm-hmm. And that's basically my resurrection as an artist, to essentially. Mm-hmm.
And then so you put that out, and then you're like, okay, this is the start of the journey, because that's sort of like you've accumulated those tracks. It's not a body of work you made to come out like that. Mm. So is this the start of putting out more records, or where are you on the journey now?
So when I was writing those 20 tracks after my dark night of the soul, I was basically just gave up on writing concept albums. I would always pick a concept or a theme and then try and write a song that was very meaningful. But then I was like, nah, forget about that. I just want to write lyric. So I was just writing one word at a time, one verse at a time, one line at a time, and just cramming them together. And so that's how this album From Then Till Now came out. And it's only been released 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So it's brand new. It's still only on SoundCloud because
I saw that. Yeah, it's not distributed properly, but this is going to come out in a week or so. So
yeah, it's coming out. There's the first music video is out on YouTube, So basically, the premise behind this album was just to like let go of everything that I'd written and created up until this point, because there's so much more that I want to create. So I've already got like another 10, 15 tracks that are on new beats, like fresh energy, new evolution of me as a human being, ready to finish and complete. So I really just wanted to get this album out. And in all honesty, like, I think like lyrically, like I'm really, really happy with it, but some of the beats are like really simple, and it's not like a really, over the top album. It's like a pretty basic album. Like it's probably not the best album basically.
But
like
you had to
for me,
you had to release it and move
yeah,
on.
I really wanted to just get all this music out. So it's very simple beats, but very, very meaningful lyrics. And I'm just wanted to get it out so that I can move forward with that phase of my life and start working on my new projects. Yeah.
Yeah, which makes total sense. And a lot of
Yep.
people are like that. But also a lot of people are like, I'm never going to put that out. It's going to sit on a hard drive because I'm not proud of it. But you're like, no, I need to release it so I can move on.
Yep. And not only did I release all the stuff that I'd written, but all the verses that I felt were good that I've been writing since I was like 15. There's a couple of those verses that I just mashed together on beats and put that on this album as well.
Just to get it out there.
Just to get it out there.
Release it, yeah.
So I feel like, this album is a big milestone of letting go of everything I've written up until this point. Yeah.
And then you did a launch gig for that as well?
No, that's coming
That's
up
coming up.
on Friday. Oh, no, Friday the 20th.
Okay.
Yes.
So
I get back on Friday the 13th, which is tomorrow.
Right, yeah.
And then the following Friday, the gig is in Perth at the Rosemount. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll try and release it on Thursday, so the gig will be tomorrow. How's that?
Yeah, cool.
We can try and do that.
No stress.
I can see if we can make that
You
work.
can edit that part out if it doesn't work. Yeah.
So, music aside, on your journey, you talked about veganism and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And you went hard early on all of that stuff. Have you continued that? Are you still living that way of life?
Not really. No. So I feel like I've explored lots of different modalities of self-development, and I'm really refining what works for me. And I really enjoy being vegan and vegetarian, but it's too complicated, like for my lifestyle. So no, I'm not vegan.
No.
But I am very, very clean.
Okay.
Like I'm the cleanest I've ever been in my life.
Right. In a substances or in an eating way or everything?
Everything. Like the hardest drug that I do, and the only thing that I have on my radar at the moment is coffee.
Yep.
Yep.
Which is
Yeah.
Which is good. And what about like fasting and that sort of thing? Do you get down with that?
I love fasting.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I love fasting, and it's very, very positive. And also colonics as well. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So fasting and colonics, it sounds really weird, but that's so healing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like when you do fast, how long are we talking for?
I've done a 3-day fast before.
Yep.
But that's predominantly it. I was intermittent fasting for a little while, but yeah, I haven't done it for a while, but I think it's very valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And diet-wise, because these diets seem like veganism obviously is a thing and it's a lifestyle for a lot of people. I feel like though it isn't as trending as it was previously, and now a lot of people are doing this like carnivore sort of diet as well.
Yeah.
Is that have you tried that sort of thing?
No, I haven't done carnivore myself. One of my friends has, and he swears by it.
Yep.
But speaking about veganisms and schisms, but I think the main time where I still go into a full vegan diet is when I'm cleansing for a ceremony.
Okay.
So when I want to detox my whole system to be as clean as possible and to be as, like pure a vessel as possible that I can to go into a sacred space, then yeah, I won't eat dairy or meat, and I'll cut back salt, sugar,
Just
certain
plants.
fats, chilies as well. Yeah.
To prepare yourself for what kind of ceremony are we talking about?
So plant medicine ceremonies. So magic mushrooms, ayahuasca, San Pedro, peyote, even like 5-MeO ceremonies, Bufo. I haven't done that for a little while, but I look forward to sitting in that space again
Well,
soon.
I don't even know what that is, man. What's that?
So 5-MeO DMT is a frog. It's a toad venom, actually. So the frog is Cambo, and the toad is Bufo.
Okay.
So they're two very, very different medicines. One is the most powerful psychedelic known to man, and that is the Bufo 5-MeO DMT. You know what DMT is, right?
Yeah.
Have you tried it?
No.
No?
But I will one day. I don't know if I'm quite ready yet.
Bruh, I reckon everyone should try it, hey?
I know.
Yeah.
Because everybody sort of says, oh, then you just look at things differently and blah, blah, blah. Do you believe that when you take it, that you see reality differently, or do you think you actually get transported to a different realm?
It's like it just removes the veil. It removes a veil of, the limited perception of our human organism, because we can only perceive a certain frequencies of sound wave, of light wave. Outside of that, it exists. We know it exists on a continuum, but we can't experience it because, our eyes can only perceive a certain light frequency, and our ears can only perceive a certain sound frequency, and so on and so forth.
Right.
So I think that when we commune with these medicines, it removes the veil and allows us to perceive, frequencies outside of our normal perception.
But it doesn't last for that long.
Nope. No. So especially the DMT journeys, like 5-MeO DMT, the toad, that's like a rocket ship. And I've only done it a couple of times, and it's so intense. And yeah, you do need to be ready for that. You need to be really ready for that, because I don't think there's such thing as a bad trip, like when it comes to plant medicine, because the medicine, it only shows you parts of yourself that you've been ignoring. So if it's an intense trip, it's because we have a lot of stuff inside our being that's been suppressed. So yeah, the medicine helps bring that all to the surface, and we might not be ready to see that stuff, but it's all part of our journey.
Is it concerning for people to do that may have potential psychological issues, though? Would you suggest that probably is a bad idea for those people?
Yeah, if there's some suppositions to mental illness and that kind of stuff, then you definitely proceed with caution. And there's many modalities of healing you can go down without needing to use plant medicine. Like even breath work can be very, very activating, done in the right way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems to be something that I'm hearing more and more about lately. Is the what is it? D something breath work? I can't. Yeah.
So, I can't remember the name of it either. I've got holotropic breath work, and I can't remember the name of the other one.
Yeah, but you think that is something that people should explore as well?
Yep, definitely.
And what about sound healing? Do you ever get down with that?
Yeah, I love sound healing. Well, if you think about it, we are all frequency and vibration. The more that we look for in a molecule, like the less we find. It's 99.99% empty space. It's just like a vibrating string. So we're actually more nothing than we are something. And that's scientifically proven. Like, that's facts. That we're actually more empty space than we are physical matter. Physical matter is made up of 90% emptiness.
Yep.
Which is trippy.
It is, man.
Yeah. So, and that's all like vibrating on a frequency. So with sound healing, it's all frequency and vibration. So I think it all keys in together, and it's very helpful. But it depends on where we're at on our journeys, and the kind of processing that we need to do depend on what kind of modality we should reach for. Yeah.
So I'm guessing that if someone wants to get involved in this sort of stuff, sound healing is probably not a bad way to start, because you're not taking any sort of, plant-based substances that may really knock your socks off. Is that like a good gateway into this sort of thing?
Yeah, I think breath work and sound healing is definitely a great place to start with proper, guidance and facilitation. Because breath work, when we do like a deep breath work journey, we breathe and breathe and breathe, and it brings up a lot. Like we can feel a lot of emotion, like a lot of suppressed stuff can come up, and it can be quite scary. So you want to have someone there to like hold you and make sure that you feel safe. And usually when you're doing breath work, like you have sound and music to like guide you on that journey as well. Yeah, so those are some ones. And even just like, you know, meditation is a great place to start, like yoga. And then, so basically step number one, like, is abstinence. So what are our vices? As soon as you remove something that you lean on every day, what happens? You get fucking triggered, right? So that's number one. We have to start being able to remove the things that we're attached to and process those triggers. And that can be the hardest step for most people, because in order to do any plant medicine or even breath work and go into these spaces, we need to be able to do the cleansing process before we actually go into space. So, you know, putting down no coffee, maybe no dairy, no alcohol, no cigarettes, no ganja, no tobacco. Like, can you put all that stuff down? What does that bring up for you? That's probably the first place to start.
And how long do you need to cleanse like that for, do you believe, before you would take on something?
So it depends on what the ceremony is, but 2 weeks, 1 or 2 weeks.
No caffeine or anything?
Yeah, so like the longer you do it, the better. But if like you can, most circles you can get away with like 7 days of abstinence. But if you can do 2 weeks before and after, that's recommended. And even like no sex, no masturbation, none of that stuff. You got to really like, no porn, no like, you know, can we withdraw? Can we like abstain from that first? What's that going to bring up for us? Because if we can't process that on our own, when we go into ceremony, it's going to bring it up and it's going to be so overwhelming. We're not going to be ready for it.
Right. And so you can see people that try and take shortcuts in that sort of stuff and they get found out in the ceremony.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I guess you've got to be honest with the people around you, and you've got to be honest with yourself if you're going into that stuff. You can't sort of fake the funk.
Yeah, no, you can't. I've definitely tried to do it before and got my ass whipped.
Really?
Yeah, big time.
By other people or just by everything coming out?
Just by the medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't respect the traditions and respect the process, more than likely it'll you know, give you something to process. Give you something.
It's a lot to take on board, though, isn't it, for people that want to get involved in that sort of scene?
Yeah, it is. It's just a curiosity, though. Like, I know for me, like, I've always been fascinated by what it means to be human potential, like where we come from, what's the meaning of life, you know, where do we go after this, and all that kind of stuff. So entering these realms just feels real natural for me. So
what do you believe? Where do we go?
Man, it's super interesting. Hey, one of the philosophies that I love to like entertain is that, you know, Earth is a school. Like we come here to experience mortality and limitation, because when we exist as an immortal soul, like there's no limits. Like we don't die. We don't need for anything. We don't want anything. There's no like constraints or limitations. And what is the parameters of a good game? You know, you need to have like a certain amount of resources and then this kind of challenge, but you need to be able to like utilize the resources you've got in a specific way to overcome that challenge. So this is basically like being human.
Yep.
We've got a limited, finite amount of resources, and we've got this immense challenge, which is like existing in life. And we have to somehow use these resources we've got to extract the most out of this life.
And some people have a better start of the game than others.
That's true. Yep. Which doesn't always mean that their soul has the most profound journey. Because have you heard the saying that strong men create good times create weak men create hard times, and hard times create strong men. So it's a cyclical cycle. Yeah.
So then you believe that we're sort of being tested on Earth, that everybody kind of has their own lessons to learn?
Yeah.
You believe that spirits are eternal?
I do. Yeah, I like to believe that for many reasons. You know, I was raised quite spiritual like that. My mum was a clairvoyant as well. She used to read tarot cards and stuff like that. And all the experiences I've had in ceremony as well. And, you know, just continuing on with the philosophy I was talking about before is how, you know, when our eternal souls, apparently we choose our family and our parents and the whole circumstances of our life before we come into planet Earth so that we can have the lessons that we need in this lifetime that we want. Like, we actually choose our journey. We choose our adventure before we come here. So our soul picks our parents. It picks all of the circumstances of our life to actually create the lessons that we need to learn as a soul in this lifetime. Yeah.
And do we reincarnate back on Earth if we don't learn the lessons or better ourselves, or do we then just exist as a spirit internally?
Well, so I've got a little theory about that, that, you know, we exist in a bit of a holographic simulation, if you will. Just trying to use words to describe it. It's like a tactile, holographic, you know, environment that we can move around, and we've got agency, you know, of control of our environment. So, but we are essentially energy. Like, we're made of, you know, like non-physical energy. And I think that our purpose on life, on Earth, in life, is to remember that we are non-physical, eternal, energetic beings. And once we can remember that, then we're actually of no service to the simulation anymore. So then we don't actually come back again.
We've moved on from the earthly realm.
Yeah. Until we can learn all of our lessons through the Earth school to remember that we are non-physical, eternal, God, like love, just like basically just pure bliss, like in ecstasy in every moment, which is what, you know, existing in an eternal realm is like. Then we'll keep coming back and keep studying the lessons and keep choosing
Until
the
you
lessons
get that, yeah.
until we remember that. Because once we remember that, we're of no service to the matrix anymore, because we go around telling everyone, hey, look, wait, this isn't real. And we start waking everyone up. So then we become a threat to the matrix.
And they move you on.
They're like, okay, yeah, look,
You've leveled up enough to move on.
We don't need you going around telling everyone the truth or reminding them too much about, you know, this. Or perhaps, you know, that's just one philosophy. I think that's pretty interesting to think about it from that perspective. And also that we are guided. I believe that we are guided by energy or entities, even just like intuition, you know, like intuition's a funny thing, like coincidences and stuff like that. And that when we learn our life lessons, that the Earth realm is actually training for spirit guides. So that once we've learned our lessons in the Earth realm and we go back to the non-physical realm with everything we've learned from our experiences here, we become guides for the next humans that incarnate on the planet. Yeah.
So, in your philosophy, in your belief system, do we then, when we move on from here and we've our life lessons, we've learned as much as we can on the earthly realm, do we exist afterwards? Can we meet up with lost loved ones and that sort of thing? Do we exist in that realm, or is everybody just existing in their own?
Yeah, I believe we do,
Right.
but not in the form that we knew them in.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So-
it's non-physical.
It's non-physical, so
Yeah.
we are just existing, but we can feel the energy or that sort of thing?
Yeah, it's a presence.
Okay.
You know, have you ever had an intuition or felt a presence of something that you can't quite
Yep.
understand or explain?
Yep.
Yeah,
So it's like that.
yeah, it would be something like that.
But you believe that if we don't learn that we are in the matrix per se, we will be reincarnated again into another physical being until we can understand that, and then our earthly journey is complete.
Yes, I believe so. And in ancient Egypt, you know, their mission was to be able to bridge the gap between physical and non-physical existence, and be able to traverse between the physical realm and the non-physical realm. That's why they talk about immortality a lot. And the pyramids and their tombs and stuff, they would get buried with all of their worldly possessions to guide them on their journey through the 12, I think there's like 12 stages of passing through. And it's funny, I think I've actually journeyed through 2 or 3 of these stages in one of my medicine journeys where, you know, I passed away, I felt a physical death, and then I passed through like 2 of these realms, and then I came back again and realized that I'd just passed over and died and come back, and that was a full-on experience. It was very, very like intense. So yeah, in ancient Egypt, I saw a documentary about the bridge, and there's 12 stages to passing. And if we can stay conscious, like if you can be conscious and present with your death and not like disassociate or freak out, then your soul can actually traverse the actual stages of passing over. Until if you can stay conscious through all, I think it's like 12, 13 stages until you get to the immortal realm, then you can actually build the bridge, the gateway between the physical and the non-physical realms, and be able to like be like a spirit and then come back to like your mortal body as well.
Okay. That's a lot.
It's pretty trippy, eh?
Do you believe that there's a creator, a god-like person or being or entity?
Yes, but I believe that it's inconceivable to our minds. It's a mystery. It is designed that way so that we will never run out of things to explore.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
No, elaborate for me.
Because it's our creator is so mysterious that we will be able to spend eternity on this planet trying to figure it out because it's impossible to understand. And with our gift of intellect, we're always trying to figure out what's going on. So I think the creator has actually made itself so impossible to comprehend that it becomes an eternal quest that's incomprehensible.
Okay.
So that we can never actually figure it out, so we'll never actually run out of something to do on this planet.
Because purpose is good.
Yep.
Okay. So,
But,
yeah.
sorry.
No, go.
So it's a mystery. So it's designed to be a mystery, right? So, and all the religions that define it, logically and symbolically, it's all metaphorical. It's a metaphor that is implying something symbolic, because when you're trying to explain something to a human being that has a limited capacity for understanding, you can only explain it to them in something that they can understand.
Yep.
So if something's outside of your comprehension, you need to be able to explain it to them in like symbols and words that you know the meaning of, right? So I think that's what, you know, God and religious teachings, they're all just symbols and words that we understand that are trying to explain something that is incomprehensible.
Yeah. So they're trying to dumb it down to a human's brain so they can understand it and then have faith and then move on with their lives and whatever.
Essentially, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's deep, man.
Yeah.
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 So do you
I love
feel
it.
like you've been through the earthly realm a few times, but you're aware now more than the previous ones because you do understand and you are awake, I guess?
Yeah, I believe so.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I think, you know, I'm aware of a few of my past lives that I've carried into this one, and the karma that I brought with me,
Okay.
and how my journey in this life, the karma that I've been left with to process. You know, I don't get it. Like, I still struggle with it like every day, but I'm more at peace with it than I've ever been. And I think that the experiences and the opportunities that I've had to work with these sacred medicines and these indigenous traditions wasn't possible until this information age where we can have access to Amazonian wisdom, where we can have access to Native American, traditions and Indigenous Australian traditions, where we didn't have access to that before.
One thing I'm just going to bring up there that you did say, that's very profound what you said at the end there, but part of that little section of your monologue there, you said that you're coming to terms with the karma from past lives.
Yeah.
So you think that us as human beings, while we're in this earthly realm, are paying for or receiving the benefits of what they may have done or not done in previous Earth lives? Is that right? Am I getting that?
I think intellectually, that is how we normally rationalize karma. But for me, I'm not sure. I'm still trying to process what my interpretation of karma is. And I think that, sometimes it's hard to make good choices and it's hard to be a good person, but it's hard to choose ourselves and know when it's right to, make a hard decision to choose yourself first or make a hard decision to choose someone else first. So I do think that there is an aspect of karmic debt and karmic contracts that we carry over from previous lives to process in this life, just like we have trauma in this life that we need to process. Like maybe someone was mean to you when you were little, then you have a complex when you get older. To process that trauma, you have to relive it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's just this life. And you think about our bloodline, our lineage, like my father and my grandfather, the trauma that they experienced got encoded in their DNA, in their physical body. And then, my grandfather's trauma, his alcoholism got passed to my father. Then my father's trauma, literally physically got passed to me through his DNA. So we have genetic memory that is coded in our DNA from our ancestors that goes back forever. So,
but as humans, I think it's unhealthy to feel that you are responsible for the shortfalls of your ancestors. That can't be good for someone's mentality.
yes. So it depends how you frame it. I agree that if you frame it as in, I'm responsible for the shortfalls of my ancestors, then that's going to have a negative impact on our life. If you choose to frame it in a different way, that my ancestors did some horrible things and now I'm choosing to say no to that and empower future generations, then I'm empowered.
Yeah, and I totally get that.
Yeah.
Just to use myself as an example, my dad was not around when I was a kid, but with my son, I pick him up and drop him off pretty much every day. And I am breaking that cycle of not doing it. And that's my way of trying. And obviously I love my son, so I want to see him and I want to make sure he's happy and gets to school. But that's my way of stopping this generational negativity, maybe,
Yep.
And that's just a simplistic way, but that's sort of what you're kind of trying to say.
It's exactly, bro. It's profound. It seems simplistic, but it's profound because that's not easy to show up as a parent when we didn't have good parents to be role models for us, when we had to educate ourselves on that. So that's empowering.
Yeah. There's two different ways that people can use certain childhood shortcomings that they may have experienced from their parents. You can say, and I'm not saying this for my dad, I'm just saying it as a whole, where I've heard people say, my dad was bad with money and he was a gambler, and so I just get those genetics and I'm going to be like that.
Yep.
Which is not my dad at all, but I'm just using that as an example. And then people say, yep, so they use that as an excuse to then perpetuate the negative cycle. Or there's people that go, my dad was shit with alcohol and he was an alcoholic and I'm not going to touch booze because I'm stopping that cycle.
Yep.
There's do you lean into it or do you push back against it?
Exactly. And it's really crystallizing about how human beings, two identical human beings can have the identical situation and experience it in two completely opposite ways and interpret it in two opposite ways. And I don't know the mechanics of that, but it's very common.
Yeah. And it's awesome to see people that do make those changes in the positive way. But I also see a lot of people, especially in the city, where, you know, when I used to spend a lot of time, you'd see people that have grown up, their parents have drug issues, they try for a while and then they just fall down that cycle and then it continues and it continues, you know?
Yep.
It's sad, man.
It is. It really is because, you know, yeah, who are we at the end of the day, you know? And I think this is where our spirit comes into it, because I don't know how or why I've been so driven to do better in my life from the circumstances that I came from. All I know is that ever since I was young, I was like, no, I don't agree. I don't agree with school. I don't agree with you, Mum. I don't agree with you, Dad. Like, that's not my vibe. Like, you guys can do that, all that stuff. Government, politics, nah. Like, that doesn't align with me. Some reason, for some, like, I don't know how the fuck that has been my journey. Yeah. And it's just, yeah, it's just weird. It's really weird.
It is, man.
Yeah.
So for people that might be going through what they almost perceive to be their rock bottom, right, which you mentioned you went through, and I think a lot of people have, what do you think that they should do if they're watching this now, listening to it, and they think, man, I am at rock bottom, or I'm not far off, or I am just having a really bad time? What's the best thing they can do to try and bring some positivity back into their lives?
I think the most important element of traversing that rock bottom is self-love. And it seems so ironic to say, but we need to connect with what we love about life and about ourselves, and simple things like that. But then also actually being honest with ourselves and acknowledging, okay, I've made a mistake here. Now I need to fix it. Or I'm a victim here. And how am I going to, you know, process this? So there's a logical, there'd be a logical process of making a strategy and like understanding how I got into this situation and then how I'm going to get out of it. And then there'll be the emotional aspect of cultivating the actual, you know, energy to be able to take those steps to move in the direction that we need to go in to actually, you know, make better for our life. So there's those two elements.
Yep.
The masculine and the feminine. So we need the masculine drive and the logical, you know, goal orientation to be able to be honest. Okay, this is what's happened. It's just facts. It's just facts.
You can't change the past.
Can't change it. What am I in control of though? Okay, I have control over this and this and this, right? You can be very logical about it. And then, you know, you need to go into the feminine, and we need to like be like, how do I feel right now? Okay, I need to like really just go into nature, or I need to stay in bed for a day or so, or I need to actually go to the gym, or I need to eat healthy. Like, how do I feel, you know? And then, do I need to ask for help? Do I need to like call the police? Do I need to take some serious action?
Yep.
You know, so you got, what kind of actions do I need to take? You know, where do I see myself? And also like creating a vision, okay, of where you are and to where you want to be.
You think visualization is important?
Yeah, visualization is important. And also not only just visualization, but writing down a plan on how you're going to get there. Because, you know, every journey of 1,000,000 miles started with a single step. So you might be at the ultimate rock bottom right now with no hope in sight, like bleak as fuck. But if you can take like a small action to move the needle in the right direction, then that is what's critical to finding more peace and more harmony and more alignment and fulfillment in our life, I believe. And then all the modalities that we talked about will come into that as well. It might be, but because it's a very broad question. Like, I don't know what
No, but,
Like-
but people, but you're bringing a positive vibe. You've been through a lot,
Yep.
and you're trying to bring more positivity to people. So I think there's probably people watching this that are like, all right, well, what are the first steps? If we can help one person that might be watching, then it's fucking worth it, you know?
Yeah, okay, so step number 1 is be healthy. Water, food, sunshine, exercise. Step number 1.
Get out of the house a little bit, even if it's just walk around the block.
Yep. Good water, not tap water. Filtered water.
You know, fluoride in the tap water's no good.
I don't drink tap water.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't think that it's very. I don't agree with.
Yeah.
Not only the fluoride, but like the calcium, the chlorine, all of the heavy metals, like the rust
Yeah.
in the pipelines and stuff. It's not good for us.
No, I remember when I was a kid, my mum used to have one of those water filters on the tap water, and you would see the shit that came out of it
Yeah,
when you'd have to change the filter.
it's nasty.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think number 1 is be healthy. Even you don't have to change your whole life in one go. You just have to change one thing at a time. It's definitely drinking plenty of water, having healthy foods, nourishing your soul. You know, I heard this from a medicine man once, and he said that in the traditional shamans in our native tribes, if you went to the medicine man with an illness or a disease, and the first thing he would ask you is, when did you stop singing and dancing?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that comes back to what you're saying. The playfulness is important.
Yeah. Be healthy. Nourish your soul. But then nourishing your soul is another conversation, because you need to know who you are. You need to know what you enjoy. You need to know, what do I love that's healthy for me?
Yep. And that is really important, because as a kid, everybody knows what they like. And as society and adulthood, for lack of a better term, takes over, people work, people go about their lives, pay their mortgage and do that, and they forget what actually makes them tick, you know?
Yeah. And I always, when I meet new people, I end up asking them, like, what do you love? What do you love to do? And I think part of my message is reminding people that we are all gifted at something. We are all born with a natural capacity and a gift for something. But it's not usually like acknowledged or supported.
Yeah.
Some kids are lucky enough to have their gifts acknowledged and supported. But when it comes to public schools and culture, like our general culture, we're force-fed, you know, like a few options to choose from.
Yeah, it's like, are you good at sport, or are you academic, or are you good at music, or are you good at art? And if it doesn't become apparent in the first 10 years, well, we're probably not going to nurture them.
Exactly. So yeah, learning who you are. What do I like?
Find your gift.
Yeah.
And it took me 40-something years to realise that I think my ability is to talk to people like this.
Yeah.
And I think I've found what I was actually made to do, but it took me a long time to find that.
Beautiful.
But I found
Beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
And this is what we need. Like, if everybody knew what they were innately gifted at and had that supported, and all they did in life was what they loved and they got to give it away freely, we would basically have a whole world of people just doing what they love and giving their gifts.
Yep.
And I think most of the roles would be filled. Someone would be growing food, someone would be a plumber, someone would be a tech guy, someone would, like, you know, be like a cleaner, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they like doing some
They
people like that stuff.
People
Yeah.
like doing that. Someone would be a scientist, someone would be a philosopher,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, it is. And I think the reality is that finances and that financial system that we are restrained by as
Yep.
humans gets in the way, and people end up taking the financial, what they think is the best financial, instead of doing what they really want to do deep down,
Yep.
you know?
And that's a whole nother podcast.
It's a whole different thing, but
Yeah.
yeah. And like, it's like people that make music like yourself, and a lot of people that come in here, or people that make art, but they don't live off their art, whether it's music or whatever, they just want to get that out there. But all the other people that don't get it say, why are you wasting your time on that music shit? You're never going to make it. But it's not about making it. You know what I mean? It's just about, that's how they need to do that stuff.
Yeah. And, you know, I've learned in my life that I can't not make music. And every time I try and But it's funny, every time I try and monetize my music and make a career out of it, I lose passion for it.
Yeah.
I can't do it anymore.
And that happens all the time.
Yeah.
So the idea is, I think, and what a lot of people I've spoken to have come to the realization, keep your art pure to you making it just for how you want to do it, and make your money doing something else that you're probably going to make a lot more money when you put time into doing something else.
Yeah.
Pay the bills, make your art the other way. Some people are lucky enough they can merge the two together. It's rare.
Yep. Big time. Big time.
So where are you at the moment with your monetization stuff? Like, are you working a different job outside of music to keep the dream alive?
Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm like always got something going on in the background. Right now I'm working offshore. So I work in oil and gas as a scaffolder, rigger, rope access tech. So I do lots of hardcore work while I'm at work because I love it. It just feeds I also love that as well. It feeds my adrenaline and my, desire for it being extreme.
So you're doing fly in, fly out stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. I catch a helicopter to work. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
And that sort of stuff, it's a very interesting way of living. And I've seen people that do that. I've had friends that do it. It's like all or nothing though, isn't it? Because you're so secluded for such a period of time. Then you come back, you're sort of not working, and then you go there and you work. But I see people that do it and they get addicted to the money, man.
Yeah.
And they come back to Melbourne or whatever, and they can't work a job for $450 a day. They're just like, nah, I can't do it because I'm used to making $900 a day or whatever it is.
Yep.
And they just get hooked on it.
Yep. I wrote a song about this. It's called Confined.
I listened to it yesterday when I was walking the dog.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it speaks into how we get stuck in a trap.
Yeah.
And I've been stuck in that trap before. So, and I know how I can see how a lot of people end up stuck in that trap because it's part of our culture to be in a lot of debt. And, accessible to a lot of debt is easily accessible. And once you get stuck in that rut, there's not much you can do about it.
And the other negative that comes from that is I'd see people that come to Melbourne for their swing shifts or whatever, they're here for 7 days. So they just go hard because they're like, well, I'm basically going back to prison. You don't know what it's like over there.
Yeah.
You just work and so that's negative as well.
Yep. And it depends on mindset. It's all about frame. I'm in a very, very different place now than I was back then. And I see it as a huge opportunity for me to focus. I'm studying NLP, and I use it as an opportunity to just disconnect from my life and have a bit of hygiene between when I make money and when I'm home. And so I had a construction company. I was managing director of a scaffolding company for a couple of years. That did really well. And I was like, shut that down. And now I'm working offshore. I have, a few digital assets, and I have my coaching programs in the background. And I also am a bit of a tech nerd, which is weird. I never thought I'd say that, but I love tech and I love AI and I love working with blockchain. So I think that I can see myself after a year or so. I'm only going to be doing this fly in, fly out stuff for a year or so, and then focusing on my music, building my music brand, and then launching the coaching, doing rap school and helping empower people through their voice, using a lot of the modalities we talked about as well from my, all the work that I've done on myself and helping guide people through their own self-development journey.
For sure.
I'll see that being where I envision myself.
I reckon you're on the right track, man.
Yeah, cheers.
So as we get close to wrapping things up, people can go to your gig tomorrow night. I'm going to put this out on Thursday. So
Nice.
for tomorrow night, tell people how they can get to your gig.
So it's at the Rosemount Hotel in Mount Lawley in Perth at the 459 bar. It's limited tickets. So hopefully there's still tickets when you hear this, but there should be a few on the door. But yeah, that's going to be the gig, and super excited. Got an epic lineup of local acts as well. I believe you had one of the artists, Alta.
Yep.
He's on the lineup as well.
Awesome. Yep.
And Kane, Snowdera, Xavier Vincent, Tasmanic, J Soul, Underground Takeover, Jake, and one of his mates, I can't remember who else is on that lineup, but
Is he-
that's the lineup. DJ Silence.
That's what I was going to say, Silence. Yeah, I did remember seeing that.
Yeah. So DJ Silence is holding it down on the Wheels of Steel. And I'm pumped. I'm absolutely pumped to perform this album. I think that, like I've written this album to be released and appreciated, and it's going to be a great opportunity to perform it live. And yeah, really looking forward to that.
For sure. And it will be out on all streaming platforms by now, maybe?
I've got to log back on to my distributor. They've been a bit of a pain in my ass, man. So hopefully in a week or so, it'll be live on all platforms.
All right, cool.
But you can hit all the links on my IG anyway.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
Look, it's been a really good chat, and I look forward to you coming back because I think we could. I know it's a long way for you, but
Yeah.
I think we could definitely dive into some deeper stuff and talk about not just your personal journey, but just the world in general, man.
100%. I love talking about that stuff. I've got a lot to talk about. This is one of the reasons why I was excited about coming over here and having this conversation, because we're just scratching the surface, man.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much to unpack about what it means to be human,
Yep.
the dynamic nature of being human, how, we don't have an operator's manual.
No.
We didn't come with an operator's manual.
No.
We had to figure it out ourselves, and I think that's what's missing.
Yeah, man. I was having a chat with my family yesterday, a few different members, and I said, look, there's no guidebook to this thing called life. We just have to make it up, and there's no rules. You just work it out as you go.
Yep. We do. And, make it work, make the most out of it, and try and have fun while we're doing it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Early Bird MC, I appreciate you coming in, man, all the way from WA. It's been a great chat, and cheers, man.
Thank you very much, man.
Cheers.
Absolute pleasure.
1,000.